Welcome to Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews. I am Eric. It's Friday, and that means I have another whiskey review for you. Up today, Glenfiddich IPA Cask. This is an India Pale Ale finished single malt Scotch whiskey from Glenfiddich. As always here on the channel, I will give you a nose taste finish review of this single malt Scotch. I'll tell you a bit about the value, give you my final thoughts and a final score, and leave you with the malt musing. Before we continue, if you've yet to, do hit subscribe. That will make sure you do not miss any of the whiskey reviews that I have coming up. A bit about Glenfiddich in the experimental series IPA Cask. So Glenfiddich, one of the most well-known distilleries in Scotland and the world for that matter. Up there with Glenlivet in terms of availability. It's a whiskey that brand, especially their 12-year, that you'll find about anywhere. But back in September 2016, they launched a experimental series trying a bunch of different, some would say innovative, some would say potentially gimmicky things with their single malt whiskey. And what we have for you today is the first edition that came out of that series. This is a single malt Scotch that has been finished in India Pale Ale casks. So India Pale Ale, by and large, for folks who don't know, is a very hoppy beer, which means bitterness, floral notes. It's a lot of what you get out of typical IPA beers because they have a lot of hops in the wort. So let's take a look at what we have here. We got a bit of a booklet. This is the bottle. Typical Glenfiddich looking bottle. It's that kind of triangular bottle. I think they're about the only ones that do this. And here is the tube. That's what we're looking at. So looking at the whiskey here, 43% ABV. It says here, Experimental Series Edition 1, finished in India Pale Ale casks, zesty and hoppy. There you go. The first single malt finished in India Pale Ale craft beer casks. And a few tasting notes. So, doesn't say a whole lot else, so we can assume that they've probably added a little color to this and that it's been chill filtered, as it does not say it has not been on the label here. So that's the rundown. Pretty nice looking bottle. I really kind of like Glenfiddich's logo, and I like some of the things they do with these bottles. This is a pretty nice looking one. As far as the experiment series go, there are 4 of them. I have reviewed 3. You can look back in my archive here on the channel. I did review the second in the series, which is Project 20, and the 4th in the series, which was Fire and Cane, a rum and peated malt. So go check those out. I have not done Experimental Edition 3, which is the Winter Storm, because it's like $350 to $400 whiskey and hard to get. So not sure I'll be doing any of those anytime soon. But let's get this one in the glass and see what we're working with. All right. Now that we've got that poured, here is a quick look at the color. Kind of a light gold. Looks oily and shiny. Okay, y'all. Let's get into this single malt. So on the nose, you do get that kind of funky, bitter IPA hoppy note. So it's in here. Not overpowering, but it's here. Also, there's a little bit of a honey sweetness, apple pear. Yep. Sweet, bitter. Those are the main dominant notes you're getting on the nose here. A little bit of a floral freshness as well, which I suppose we can expect out of an IPA cask. Okay, let's give this a taste. Sláinte. Soft arrival. Sweetness, you get a little bit of that apple, but then you really get the full-on hit of bitter, sweet, slightly fruity notes. Honey, pepper, apple, pear, a little bit of caramel. And then as it goes into the finish, you do have a bitter, medium, short, medium finish. Citrus, I want to say lemon, and it's big hit of lemon, kind of lemon oil or lemon rinds, kind of a bitter lemon. Still a bit of that IPA, but I will tell you that the IPA influence seemed a lot more prominent on the nose. As you go into this, you get into a much more, it kind of goes into the background, into a much more citrusy, slightly fruity, slightly malty whiskey. A little bit on the end of this finish is a little bit of a dark chocolate note too. So lemon, maybe lemon orange citrus, bitter citrus on the lemon part, and a little bit of orange and a little bit of chocolate. IPA kind of lingering in the background. It has a nice kind of influence on the whiskey in that it almost reminds you of being, if you've ever been into a microbrewery or a brewery of any sort, in that kind of aroma in there. This does trigger that a bit and take you back to that kind of smell and feeling. So kind of interesting. Let's put a little bit of water on this whiskey. 43% ABV. I'm going to actually put about a teaspoon of water into this just to see if anything else comes out of this. Okay. With the addition of water, it seems that the IPA hoppy note has taken a little bit of a backseat to more dominant kind of ex-bourbon notes, vanilla, apple, slight cinnamon, citrus still there, but also in the background a bit, more of a lime citrus on the nose. Yeah, that hoppy note is in there, but it's definitely in the background now with water. Yeah, getting much more of a warm, slightly nutty, almost almond note now too. Whiskey does appear to get a bit more complex with the addition of water. Okay, going for another taste here. So now, after adding water, sweet, still pretty gentle on the nose, a bit oily. As it develops, that pepper note is still there, the citrus, big time, lemon, bitter lemon. That hoppy IPA note is back a bit more on the nose, pepper. I don't know if it's black pepper or white pepper, but just kind of a pepper note. Finish goes into a light caramel, light milk chocolate now, not quite as much of a bitter dark chocolate, more of a milk chocolate. Again, sharp orange lemon note on the end. Still about short, medium on that finish. Okay, here's one more look at the bottle. Glenfiddich IPA Cask. So value-wise, this is an interesting one because it is really all over the board. Some places you can find a bottle of this for around $50. Others, you might be paying $60, $70, even $80 for this. So it is still pretty widely available. Maybe not in every shop, but certainly won't take you long to discover a bottle of this, despite being released in September 2016. So something you'll find on the shelf, but be cautious on the price. I wouldn't say the value on this is great, going anything above maybe $50, unless you're really an IPA fan, in which case, maybe you're willing to pay a bit more. So as we roll into the final thoughts here, this is a really fun whiskey. I don't think it's necessarily going to be for everybody. If you're not a fan of bitter hops or bitterness in whiskey in general, this is not necessarily going to be a whiskey you're going to want to run out and buy. However, I think that Glenfiddich actually did a really good job with this. This very easily could have just been overpowered with hops. It could have tasted a lot more artificial than it is. I think that they actually did a pretty good job figuring out how to marry this rather unique flavor with their single malt. It would have been nice, of course, if this had an age statement. It'd be nice if it was even up to 46% ABV. But all in all, I think this whiskey works. It's not the most complex whiskey, but definitely fun. And again, if you're a fan of hops, hoppy beer, this might be worth buying. So my final score on this is going to be a 3 out of 5, which if you look at the value, I'd say I recommend buying this if you find it at a good price or simply trying it. So 3 out of 5 will be my final score for the whiskey itself. And hey, I hope everybody gets an opportunity to try this. Their entire experimental line of the 3 of the 4 that I've had have all been pretty good. I do go back and take a look at my reviews of the Fire and Cane and the Project 20, as those are still pretty available as well. And with that, I'll wrap up this episode of Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews, and we will catch you next Friday with another whiskey review. Cheers, y'all.